So today I have the awesome opportunity and pleasure to chat with a friend named Annika Martins, who is in a much warmer place than I today. But she is actually a friend of a friend that I've gotten to know over the past couple of years. And it turns out that our work and our worlds are in pretty awesome alignment. And I wanted to have her on this chat with us today, because I think that she provides an entire conversation that I guess I haven't really gone into depth with a lot of my audience and my clients, because sometimes I don't have the language for it. And I love that this is like your expertise. So Annika, first, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here. And
my pleasure. I'm so excited for this conversation. Thank you.
Me too. And I would just tell the people who you are, besides your name, what you do, and kind of what led you to do what you do.
Yes. So I am the creator of the Body Course, and that is the primary vehicle, the primary way that I share this work with women and femmes. And the premise of the course is that when we create a stronger, more integrated, comfortable relationship with our bodies, that has a domino effect in the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. It affects, as you know, how we feel when we open our closet in the mornings and when we get dressed. It affects how we show up in our professional lives. It affects how we show up in political arenas when it comes to talking about social justice issues or not talking about it. All of these areas of our lives are impacted by the degree to which we feel grounded, secure, and confident in ourselves. And I think at like the baseline, that level of confidence and connectedness starts here. It starts with ourselves. It starts with our bodies. And I came to this work because I was doing, in my previous career, I was a copywriter, I was a marketing consultant. And in that work, I realized that I have such a passion for supporting and seeing women step up, step into their art, step into their voice, step into their creativity. And I thought that supporting women to do that in a technical, behind the scenes marketing stance was what my passion was. But along the way, I discovered that what I actually care about is understanding what happens that causes a woman who wants to lead to not lead. What causes a woman that wants to step forward to not step forward? What causes that? And I found that for me personally, and for a lot of the people that I was working with, our relationship to our body really creates either this expansive, radiant, like empowering force in our lives, or it creates the opposite. It creates the instinct to shrink and to fold and to hide and to censor. And I'm not here for that. I don't want to live on that earth. So that was when I transitioned into focusing specifically on how we can change the way we feel about our bodies. And that therefore changes the way we show up in the world. And Lord knows the world needs us to do that.
So I literally got goosebumps while you were talking, because this is why we are so perfectly aligned, because that is my mission as well, in terms of like, I know that when women are confident in how they look and appear, that they perform accordingly, that they put their best foot forward. And what I love about what you do is you uncover a layer deeper than where I start. And I think that that's really important, because I don't think women really understand that. And of course this applies to all human beings, but I think for our purposes, we'll talk about women specifically. But I don't think we understand, because I think about myself growing up and how many times I would hold myself back from either answering a question I knew the answer to, or, I don't know, dancing as boldly as I may have wanted to, or just all the ways I held myself back because I thought it was like the proper thing to do, or whatever the mental conversation was at the time. And I don't know if I've ever, and not to say that I understood anything about my body at that time, but I'm sure that it was all linked to how present and confident I felt in my body. And I feel like that's something that we should be teaching in school, like early.
Yes.
So that is so awesome. I love that you came from the other side of that world of like you know, put yourself out there. And you're like, wait, but why aren't women putting themselves out there? And what is that about? And so the fact that you made this life, this business out of what you realized, and I don't know if you put yourself in those shoes a lot of times. Like, was this a personal struggle too for you? Or
100%. Yeah, that was really the basis that gave me the confidence to say that I could even offer anything valuable on this topic, because I 100% lived this for myself. And for the longest time, I kept that a secret because I was ashamed that I had shame. I was embarrassed that I was embarrassed about my appearance. And so externally, I was like, yeah, I'm 6 feet tall and I'm so secure. And like, I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
It was a farce. It was a total farce.
Yeah.
It was a protection mechanism, because that's not at all how I felt, but it was how I was defending myself. And it was later into my career when I started to notice myself. I identify with your example so much of holding back, not wanting to stand out, not wanting to draw attention to yourself. There was a period of time where for me, the big thing was I didn't want to do anything that made me better than the boys. I didn't want to outperform them in class. I didn't want to outperform them in sports. I wanted to make sure that there was always like 5 or 6 boys who were smarter than me or more successful on the playing field than me, because God forbid I should outshine a guy. So I had a lot of that holding back experience. And it was when the things that motivated me, and I notice this is a pattern with people that come from high achiever, like academically oriented families and communities. When I understood that holding back tendency wasn't just affecting my dating life, wasn't just affecting my clothing choices, wasn't just affecting my travel or my willingness to travel, but it was affecting my ability to have the career I wanted. That for me just like cinched something in my insides, because I felt like if there is anything that I'm put on this earth for, it is to have is to do something meaningful with my life. And if the meaningful thing that I have chosen for myself, I'm not doing it because of cellulite or because like I have a pimple today, this is not acceptable. So what am I going to do about this? And it took many years. And there were times when I was super focused on it and times when I stepped back and I was like, yo, I just need to go back to Oreos and being in denial because this is friggin' hard. So it wasn't a smooth linear process by any means. And I don't think that we ever stop. I don't think there's ever a point where now you're done your body journey and you're just like body positivity perfect all the time. I don't believe that in that either. But I do know that I am worlds apart from who I was 5 years ago, from who I was 10 years ago. And that's what's changed. That's what's changed the way I show up professionally. And so I want to share the process and the tools and the ideas that helped me get here, so that other people who have dreams and missions far bigger than mine can go ahead. Because I don't have the aspiration I don't need to be an Oprah's couch. It's not a drive for me. I don't need to be a New York Times bestseller. It is not a motivator for me. If it happens, great. I'm a writer and I would love my book to reach people, but that's not a drive for me. For the women who want that, I want them to have that. And so we can figure out what is standing in the way. And I think that it is a lot of detachment and disconnection that starts first here in our relationship with ourselves.
I mean, there's so much there. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on why is it our bodies that we have such a strong connection to in terms of like its effect on our lives? Because I think like, you know, there's mental health, and then there's, you know, I don't know, there's so many different things that we could focus on. But it's been my experience that for women especially, our bodies take up so much mind chatter and energy, and like, why is that the thing?
I actually come at this answer from 2 directions. So my first answer is that, particularly for women, our bodies are literally the birthplace of creation. Our bodies are the vessel through which our intuition comes through. So I think there's a degree to which the focus on the physical self is a really valid, healthy thing because it is a touchstone. Our emotional experience gets processed in the brain, but it starts first in the body as a feeling state. And if we're disconnected from the body, if we're just like a talking head walking around, there's all this emotional stuff happening that we're detached from, disconnected from. So I think that on the one side, it's a really beautiful thing, the connectedness we have to our bodies. From the other side, I think that we have, especially as you said, specifically for women, we have been conditioned from really early on in life to equate our total identity with our physical identity. And it is not our total identity. It's a part of our identity, but we have been conditioned to see it as the totality of who we are. And so if the totality, this is why I believe that the way you feel about your body is going to show up in other areas of your life. Because if we live in a culture that teaches us that the totality of our identity is our physical self, and then we accept this cultural secondary promise, which is that your physical self is too big, is too curvy in these spots, is too flat in these spots, is too bumpy, is too whatever. Bumpy is not a word, I made it up, whatever. If we accept that, then what we're accepting is that the wholeness of me, I am not good enough. Not just my body, but I am not good enough. And that's why we wind up procrastinating on the projects we say we care about. We wind up, you know, setting a dream, and then every time we go to work on it, we just feel paralyzed by self-doubt because we have fused our physical self with the totality of who we are, when in fact you're also your heart, and you're also your mind, and you're the different roles that you play in your life. You're not just this one body slice. So I think that we have it from two directions. And on the one hand, a really positive emphasis on the body, on the other hand, a really problematic one. And we have to find a way to create some symmetry and some balance there.
Yeah, I agree with you 1000%, because you're right. Like it's kind of hard to think of like your body, because I like, okay, so you know, I have a 2.5-year-old almost, and I grapple with the idea of like, holy shit, like I gave birth to a human.
Yes,
and then at the same time,
that awes me all the time.
It really is amazing. It's unreal. Like if you think about how like just wow, right? Like how long it takes, the fact that he just takes parts of me and my husband and even my brother, like he looks like, it's just insane, right? And then at the same time, even though I'm in awe of that power, I still am over here criticizing, you know, that I'm not where I was weight wise before I had him, or that I'm, you know, like it's just so not in alignment, those two things, you know. And it is like, that's why I call myself the anti-fashion stylist, because it's this industry, right? It's this voice, this messaging that you're supposed to look a certain way. And you know, it's been happening for so long that I don't even think like we know when it starts. It probably starts.
Exactly. This is the thing. I think so many of us think it's normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so normal that every 5 seconds someone is talking about da 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 for weight loss, da 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 da. Like we hear these words all the time now, and so our brains are like, this is everyday life.
Yeah.
This is just commonplace, normal, straightforward stuff. Before we started the recording, we were talking about, you know, like how our industry, how we value people who share really practical tools in this industry. And this is where one of the things that I wanted to share comes up. One of the things that I think is really problematic is if you scan your Instagram feed. So people watching, do this, scan your Instagram feed, and then without reflection, without any deep thought, just think right off the bat, who are the 3 women that I most admire and most want to be like? And if your answer to that question and your Instagram feed is full of bodies that mostly don't look like yours, that's a problem. Because what you're doing is you're filling your mind with beautiful, successful, wonderful human being women. They don't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the narrative that we're feeding ourselves is that it's normal for me to be on a perpetual quest to change myself because I'll only be good enough if I look like they do. I'll only be good enough if I have that body. Yeah. And I think that that's one of the first things that I did when I started this process was I culled my Instagram feed with a lot of discernment. And I intentionally started to look for bodies that looked like mine, but not just like, oh, it's a body and it looks like mine, but a body like mine joyfully dancing. Like when you talked about the bowl dancing, I related to that too. Or, you know, like seeing that woman in wonderful partnership, because one of my stories for very long was that until I have that body, I won't be attractive to the kind of man that I desire. And so seeing women in partnership with bodies like mine was a way that I was changing what was normal in my brain. And I think that I love that you hit on that point. It is so normalized that we don't see it. And we just like go through our day and we don't realize how many touch points in that day are just drilling in this narrative over and over and over again. And so we have to consciously, with intention, we have to talk about it with our friends, with our spouse. We have to be deliberate about it, because the 60 billion, that's with a B, the $60 billion diet industry is not going to help you. They have no interest in you realizing this garbage and tuning out, because it's in their interest for you to continue to say, yeah, it's normal for all of us on December 31st to decide we're going to lose 25 pounds. Yeah. It's normal. This is the world. We should just embrace it. The January 1st, like, stream of diets come down the runway. Yeah. And I think that we have to take responsibility and hold each other accountable for saying, I have to own my right and my capacity to change what's normal for me and to change the worldview that I see the world through, because no one's going to do it for me. Like, that's on me. I have to choose that. I have to take responsibility for that. And I think being intentional about the images you allow yourself to see every day, that's a big, big part of it.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think, I agree with so much of what you said. And here's a question. And then I want to talk about one of the things that my clients struggle with often that I think you have some tips for. But how do you reconcile wanting to work out and be healthy with body positivity? Like, I feel like that's a hard balance.
I get that question a lot, and I think the idea that the things are separate is in itself like a problem that we have to work on, because they're not. In its origins, the body positivity field in actuality started specifically to address the fact that marginalized women's bodies were often ignored and demeaned. So it was specifically focused on fat bodies, on the bodies of women of color, of trans women. Mm-hmm. So broadly speaking, body love or body confidence is really about saying that no matter what condition your body is in right now, you are still worthy of kindness, you are still worthy of love, you are still worthy of care, you're still worthy of the career you want and of the clothes you want to wear. You don't become worthy for that, you are worthy for that. That's a central principle. So I think when you're thinking about movement and nutrition, the question is my relationship to movement and nutrition outcome oriented? Is it results driven, or is it experience driven? Is it process focused? Is it in the moment joy focused? Because if the only reason that I'm moving my body is so that I can lose the weight, so that I can be a good enough, beautiful enough, successful enough woman, then I do think that is working in opposition to unconditional worthiness. Yes, because we're saying unconditionally worthy out of this corner of our mouth, but this corner of our mouth is saying, but really it's unconditionally worthy when I lose 27 pounds, right? So, it's combating with each other. So I don't think that there's anything, that the two things aren't in opposition. I think it's really about, are you eating that, or are you choosing to exercise in that way because you are fixated on an outcome that will give you good enoughness? Or are you doing it because the process and the experience of it creates, as you were talking about before, mental clarity, and you find that you're sharper throughout your day when you've moved your body. You find that you have more energy for the things that you love. You're more flexible, so your sex life benefits. Your husband is really happy about the fact that you've been doing all those bendy things and yoga or whatever, I think it's really about the essential nature, like the value that I get from this experience, rather than is it going to fix me? Because if I'm looking for movement and for food to fix me, I'm starting from the posture of assuming that I'm broken, and I'm not down with that. No one's broken.
I loved the clarity with which you just explained that, because I think that is so, I think that that's a conversation that people have with themselves and don't know how to answer. And I think that that's like, even for me, I'm like, yeah, it's important to know that I I have a relationship with my body now as it is that is healthy, so that no matter where I am on this spectrum, right, of body changes over the rest of my lifetime, that I'm okay, you
Yes.
know, and that's important. I love that. That's perfect.
Hmm.
Okay, so here is the question that I come across all the time with clients who are either looking to up level their style, looking to work with me, and it's about, well, why I don't really, well, first let's talk about the closet cleanses. When I'm in women's closets, they hang on to stuff, Annika, that they swear they're going to fit back into, and it's literally the majority of their wardrobe. And I'm always like, you know, because I always want to be gentle and empathetic through the process, but it's really hard because so you're literally wearing 5 things that fit you now and holding on to these 20 things that don't fit you now, and you're preventing or halting what could be in this style journey of yours to represent yourself fully in this moment, you know? So they're totally bypassing the present because of an unknown future, and also of a past they
Yes.
haven't know of. And so they're always like, well, I don't want to invest in new clothes because I'm going to lose this weight. So tell me, Annika, how, if you were standing beside me at a closet cleanse with a client, what would your response be to that?
Oh, that's a great question. It's so interesting, the timing of this question, because literally yesterday, I had a similar interaction, and I was in my brain saying, Annika, stay calm and don't go too hard into the tough love, because I really can go into tough love fast. And so I was like, keep it here, keep it here. So I'm going to try and do that now in your scenario, which I love. I love the visual of the scenario. It's interesting that the resistance to letting go of the clothes is, I'm going to change my body, because I think very often when we say that, when we are living in that mind space, what that almost always means is that we are disconnected from our bodies. Because in that moment, what I would want to do is I'd want to say, like, let's leave the closet, let's sit on the floor, lie down on the floor, whatever, and do some kind of exercise to get connected to your body, to get present to your body. Because when you do that, we can hear things that we can't hear when we're just up in the head listening to diet culture tell me that I'll be good enough when I lose the weight and I can wear these 20 things. So the fact that, because being present in your body requires coming into this present moment right here. And in this present moment right here, what is the quality of my life if I am wearing these 5 things and only these 5 things? What is my experience in moving through my day, in interacting with my family, in feeling the fabric on my skin with just these 5 things? And if she can feel joy in that, and if she's satisfied, like, your job is to help her get new stuff. So you probably don't want to hear this, but my answer would be like, that's fine. If those 5 things really feel that, give you that sensation, and you feel that connectedness in your body, great. But my suspicion is that very often that's not the case. It's like this, you know, these are my 5 things, and, oh, but look at these 20 beautiful things, but I can't have them yet. And that kind of deprivation, I think we have to challenge ourselves into asking ourselves, why do I believe that my deservingness of joy now is limited? Why do I believe that I'm not worthy of feeling joy now? Why do I believe I'm not worthy of feeling contentment now? One of the things that I like to talk about when in the body course is this idea of sensual experience in your life starts first thing in the morning when you get dressed. The way that you put your clothes on, the sensation of the fabric against your skin, the way that you admire yourself in the mirror, whether you choose to wear jewelry or makeup or how you style your hair. These are all ways that we get to experience pleasure and satisfaction just through observing and feeling and being connected to our senses. And if we're not having that experience, the idea that we have to wait until our bodies are different, or that we have to wait until we can afford a $10,000 shopping spree, it's just not true. It's a farce, and we have to call it out and have our people around us get with friends and community that call it out. It's really hard. I have to say this, Elsa, it's really hard to do this work. If you are living in a family and you are surrounded by a circle of friends who are like super deep into diet culture. It's really hard to do this because every time you make 5 steps forward, you just get like the wave just knocks you over. And it's possible. And I know people who have done it and created really strong containers and boundaries for themselves, but it is difficult to do. And I think that's one of the things that I find comes up a lot with my clients, is that discovering that redefining your relationship to your body also has you looking at the boundaries in your life. And it has you looking at the places where you maybe don't have boundaries, or you've created a boundary, but then you haven't maintained it, where it's gotten kind of loose and porous. So I think it's a lot of factors combined, but my general feeling is that when we are disconnected from our bodies, it's so easy to go into that state that says, I don't deserve it. I haven't earned it yet. I'm not good enough yet. And getting connected is a step one of having us start to question that logic and reframe that.
Yeah, and it's just so simple the way you phrase it, because it's like, but yeah, so why aren't you worth it now? So what if you're a size 12? What does that mean? What does that mean to your life? You know, if it's literally physically hindering you in terms of health, that's a different story. But like if you're waiting to feel good later when you can feel good now, it's almost nonsensical. It doesn't make sense.
It is. Yeah. It's punishment. It's punishing ourselves for being ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I often wonder if like other people find this like taxing or overbearing, but it makes such a difference for me when I can just really logically lay it out. Like when I can just say, oh, right, I think that I'm not capable of having fun at the beach because this is the condition of my thighs. And when I say that out loud, I'm like, what kind of shit? Like it just shifts things for me because we don't say these things out loud. We don't speak these things out loud. It's just normalized. Like everyone sits around and talks about their summer body and their bikini body, and it's just normal. It's not friggin' normal. Yeah. And we have to challenge it and question it and say, I'm not going to participate in that. I'm not going to speak about myself that way. I'm not going to speak to my child that way. I'll go off on a tangent about mothers and daughters.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. But I love that. Like just saying like, hey, say the thought out loud.
Exactly.
Say the thought, call your friend and tell her that thought or him that thought.
And then listen to what they have to say back. Exactly. Yes.
Because I think it's really just kind of like a dose of reality of just like, because, you know, we can say whatever in our minds to ourselves because it's within the, you know, the confines of our minds. And no one, we judge. And that's what we rely on. But I think it's important to really put yourself, snap yourself back to reality in terms of what that really means. What that conversation in your head is really saying about what you say you want, right? Which may not be what you actually want.
Exactly.
I love that. And I know you have a couple of tools that you use and you use with your clients to kind of help with that, basically work on that on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. The biggest one that I wanted to share today, in addition to the whole like cleaning up your Instagram, cleaning up your social feeds in a major way, is called body dates. And the premise is, it is what it sounds like. Just as you would go on a romantic date to either get to know a partner or to develop and deepen your relationship with a partner, why can't we do that? Why aren't we doing that with our physical selves as well? And so a body date, I typically suggest aiming for 30 minutes. When I first did my first body date, I was in such a tough place with my body that I could only manage 5 minutes. So be where you are, start with whatever minimum amount of time you need to, and then develop and grow from there. And it's just about presence. It's about connecting. It's about being still. We are going and to-do listing and running from this to that, to this to that, that the kinds of awarenesses and insights that we've talked about here in this conversation, we very often don't have space in our lives for them to come through because we are just moving and running constantly. So a body date is giving yourself to be still, to hear that. I really believe that our intuition and our wisdom comes through our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so being present with our bodies brings that. One of the things that is, I think is important in all body dates is to have some portion of the body date where you are physically touching yourself. Some people hear that and jump straight into, oh, she wants me to masturbate. I don't object to your desire to masturbate or your interest in that, but I'm not talking about starting by seeing this as about sexual touch, but rather connective. You know, it's like when you're sitting with your partner and they say something really vulnerable and you just reach over and you just put your hand on their arm, or, you know, like you hold the side of their face. It's that tenderness, that intimacy of physical touch. So we are so quick to give to others, but why aren't we giving that to ourselves? That's a way of caring for yourself. That's self-care too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's because the point that we were making earlier, the narrative, that the story that says that you will be worthy of clothes you love, you'll be worthy of doing Instagram stories, you'll be worthy of having a YouTube channel when your body is different. That story isn't going to change just because you sit down one day and you watch this video and you're like, that'd be nice if that story changed. That story changes when you make the decision to intentionally, consciously create conditions in your life to alter the way that you've been seeing that story, to see that belief. And that just requires consistently showing up for yourself, consistently showing up for the work. And that's why I love a body date, because it's not some abstract, like, I'm just going to think about one day feeling really great in a bikini. It's like, I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes and maybe I'm going to reflect on something from my past. Maybe I'm going to journal about something that I want to experience in the future. Maybe I'm going to write a letter to my body and then sit in stillness for 5 minutes and see if I feel like my body has anything to say back to me. It's a variety of tools within the body date itself, but the premise is that you're making space for your connection to yourself, and you're making space for connecting to a body story that feels uplifting and feels empowering, that feels deeply, deeply kind to yourself. That's not going to happen without the intentional showing up and commitment to the time. And I think that's why I like the structure of it.
And I think what's really important about that is that it, you know, like, action is really the antidote to thought a lot of the time. So I think if you're constantly in thought about, or turmoil about your body, and carving out these 30 minutes or however much time you do your body date guide a day, it's like you're kind of walking the talk, you know, in a sense of you're outside of your mind and physically showing your body, like literally showing your body love. And I think that overrides, you know, and I know it's a journey, but I think in that moment it overrides any of the thoughts that you may have, because I think, you know, we can tell our kids we love them, for example, and I'm a new mom, so they're always the first thing that comes to my mind. And I think about that, I'm like, I could tell my son, I love you, I love you, I love you, but if I don't touch him, or if I'm cold or distant, he's not gonna, that doesn't translate to him, right? First, he doesn't even understand words for a while, right? First little bit of his life. But then, like, understanding, like, now he comes up to me, gives me hugs, and he says, Mommy, I love you. Like, he equates that with being close to me in some way. And so I think it makes perfect sense, like, for us to do that to ourselves, because that's how I think that will permeate into real belief.
Yes, 100%. Yes. And I'm so glad that you brought up the whole thought versus action thing, or thought and action thing, because one of the most consistent things that I hear clients say when we're talking about the work they want to do in the world is that I'm so in my head about it. I just need to get out of my head and do something, and to get out of my head and take action. And that's why this body thing is so directly connected to the way we show up in professional settings, as well as parenting, as you just so beautifully said, because it's a way of getting you out of your head and, like, what's really true, what's really going on, what is my actual greatest desire. And it's not just, if the body date isn't just focused on like, how can I love myself and think that I'm hot in booty shorts? The question, the body date is just about presence with yourself. So sometimes on a body date, I will get brilliant ideas for Instagram videos. I will get like, oh, I should email people and tell them this. I will get, I should reach out to Elsa and see if she wants to like collaborate on something. These things and this clarity comes through when we are present enough with ourselves, getting out of the loop of thoughts in our brains, and stillness and clarity comes through. So I can't recommend
signing up for the body date kit like today.
Yes, the link will be, I think wherever you put this video, the link will be right beside it.
It'll definitely be beneath the video in the blog post, and then and then we'll talk about how we can add the link, I guess, in social media. Facebook is easy, but Instagram is always the
we'll figure it out.
But I also want you to talk about your amazing course that's coming up. You're opening up the doors to it April 10th?
Yes. April 10th, the body course comes back. It's a 10-week program, and it is exactly how I described the body date, about giving yourself that focused, deliberate time. The body date is saying, the body course is saying, for the next 10 weeks, I'm committing to being present with myself, present with and willing to clear up the old body stories and create a body narrative that's based on empowerment and based on clarity and confidence and a willingness to show up in the world. I draw a very strong distinction in my work that I specifically want women who have a desire to show up more. I'm not objecting if you don't have that desire, because not every person does, and that's fine. But those are the people that I am most excited about, because you already have the vision. You don't need me to give you the vision. You don't need anybody to tell you what your purpose is. You already know, but yet you're not moving towards it. And so the body course is about saying, how can we create a relationship with your body where your body is your ally, where your body is a source of power and energy that boosts you and carries you forward. So if any of your people watching are interested, whether it's on my website or on social media, if you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me, but the details will all be available this week. So everything will go up. And I would love to have some anti-fashionistas of Elsa's crowd in the mix.
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of us that could use that support and that community, just being able to not feel like it's something that you're by yourself, crazy and thinking on and struggling with, I would say, because it's such a persistent way of thinking, like you said, because it starts so young, it starts so early, and the messaging is everywhere. But I love that. So 10 weeks body course, right?
Yep.
So I'll have the link in the blog post also, so they'll be able to find out more and sign up if you so choose. But I am so happy that you do the work that you do in the world, Annika. Thank you so much for being here and just sharing your amazing wisdom and experience. And we'll also put links up of where to follow Annika on Instagram. I don't know if you're on Facebook. Are you on Facebook too?
I am, but we have a bit of an off and on relationship at the moment. And my little guy just perfect timing.
yeah.
Well, thank you for having me as well.